Hey guys, I'm Tom from Battlecore. We're going to be starting a new segment on what cards come out from each set. We're going to give you our base opinions and then give them a grade from 1 to 10. It won't just be me, it'll be other people, depending on who is more knowledgeable of their clan. Since the current set that's being released as Bermuda's, you'll see a lot of me. Um, you want any credentials? I've been playing Bermuda since the original set, so I know a lot about them. So, the first card we're going to talk about today is Mermaid Idol Elly. Now, I graded her a 5 out of 10, and her skill is very good. You can't tech her skill, but a 20k shield is really good, and you can possibly remove it from the field and basically add another. Not only filter your deck, but add a 10k guard, well, technically a 20k guard to your hand through her effect. You can't play like two though. You'll never play one. You'll never really play two. You might, in a weird way, if you're playing in premium, play two of this Elly and then two perfect guard Ellys, because you can still, it just says grab a Mermaid Idol Elly, so you can still grab a perfect guard. It'd be incredibly interesting if you try to. And then you can actually use those cards to recycle your perfect guards. Um, she's still just mediocre, unfortunately. She doesn't have a lot of grabbing power currently, but I think at one point she will definitely be one of the uh, coolest cards and unexpected cards for people to be seeing out there. Because a 20k shield is quite important. Now people are starting to hit those thresholds that are going over 15k for you to have to guard. And that extra 5 will help a lot for a lot of players. Well, a lot of Bermuda players at least. The next card we're going to go up is Whisper Ripple Militta. And she is. I graded her a 2 out of 10. The only reason she has a very low grade right now is because she's the 3k crit 2. You don't see these in decks, like, at all. And if you do see them, there's like one, maybe two at most. And you need to put them in decks that involve getting high power. Like, just for her to have a good power lane, you have to give her like, she has to be up to 33 plus. So you need a deck that can increase power, which really the fastest one right now is Meledy, to get a smooth amount of power real quickly. Um, but right now she's 2 out of 10. That might change eventually if there's cards that end up giving like a really big lane. But you really don't want to ride this card. This card gets beaten down by the Shadow Paladin 5k units that they call out. It's not a good plan. So the next card we have is Direct Squirt Elche. She's the new Coral Support card. I graded her a 7 out of 10. She's a great card for both premium and standard. Basically being able to possibly fish cards out of your deck for premium to get your corals out onto the field for that particular, for standard, so you can keep getting those crit 2s are very important. On the flip side, in premium, where you actually want the corals in your soul, this is also a very good card to have. All around, she's a solid card to be playing in both decks. We're going to see her being played in both decks regardless. I don't see why she wouldn't, because she's basically a selective soul charge, and that is great for corals. The next card that we're going to be going with is Rainbow Shard Uranie. She is the Pacifica support, and I graded her a 6 out of 10. Now, the reason she's slightly weaker than her previous counterpart, Topping Mascot, is Topping Mascot, even though it costs a Counterblast or a Soul Blast, depending on the timing, you still get the capability of getting 2 cards. Unfortunately, because they haven't revealed another Pacifica, Cyrano's technically better, but that could all change within the next couple of releases that we see a new Pacifica. And if we do, Cyrano might take a backseat, and Uranie might actually go up to like a 7. But currently, right now, in my opinion, Topping Mascot is a little bit better because we don't have any cost issues. We have none. We don't have any real soul issues. We don't really have any counterblast issues. I'm normally spent after using 3 counterblast at most. So for now, she's a 6, but she can go up depending on if we get more Pacifica support. But she'll be definitely great in premium because she can just fish out whatever Pacifica that she wants, which is perfect for that. The next one we have is Gleeful Mode Tabia, and I graded her an 8 out of 10. She is the Riviere support, and she is probably one of the best counterchargers for Riviere ever. Now, the unfortunate thing is that she's going to end up taking the place of Loftiest. Loftiest was a good countercharger. She removed herself from the field. She gave you a card, so she basically made it free. But in order to countercharge, you had to have 1 or less. Sometimes they just hit you for a lot, and you just can't get that countercharge, which hurts. It really sucks. But now with her, when you ride over top with the new Riviere, you can then Soul Blast that previous Grade 3 Riviere and countercharge with. You can have 3 open counterblasts and get that 4th one. You're fine. It'll help with your countercharging very much. And the advantage for that also is that even if you only see 2 Rivieres that entire game, as long as you have her out in your hand, since you've already Soul Blasted, use her, grab the Riviere that you Soul Blasted, you can do the skill again. Very good, very important. Animated rooting will be very important in the deck at that point in time. But she will, unfortunately, Tabia will unfortunately be taking the place of Loftiest. It's no choice there. The next card we are going after is Top Idol Aqua. I graded her a 6 out of 10, and only because she is one of the first bouncing effects, which makes me really excited that Bermuda might start getting bouncing effects back. It's really important for us because that was our mechanic. That was our original mechanic, just bouncing units. Her skill isn't all that powerful because it's still an on place for her, and you can only use it once per turn for her entire skill. The one thing that I felt really sad about is that you can only bounce normal units. I was really hoping that you can combine her with Lisette, so when you're hitting those unfortunate triggers with Lisette, you can get those triggers back in your hand. That is unfortunately still a pipe dream. There's nothing you can do about that. But she's still a very solid card. She'll be excellent in decks that involve a lot of on-play skills. So you can activate an on-play skill, then play Aqua, bounce that card back into your hand, and then you can either activate it again, your on play skill again, or you can hold it in your hand because it's only like a once per turn, like Lisette. You can still combine her with Lisette, but you'll have a lot of different combos for on places. The next card that we are going to go with is Transparent Charm Seledy. Now, originally I was going to grade her at a 3, but then a couple of support cards came out for her, which made her a little bit better. She's still, in my opinion, only a 4. 4 out of 10. Her skill for getting power for multiple copies when you reveal them are only for rear guards. It's nice, but it's only for rear guards. The counterblasting once per turn to get another unit, it's good. It's a selective thing from either deck or drop zone, I believe. But it's still sort of a disadvantage. You're plussing 1 for a counterblast, and a lot of these cards are involving where you need like 2 of them for the support cards. So, not the best thing. But Seledy will work well with a deck like Elly because you can constantly getting Ellys in and out of your field. I think Seledy, unfortunately, is going to be one of those budget decks. You'll probably be able to build a Seledy deck for probably around $30 if I were to guess. I don't think she's going to go very high in price, and all her support cards are commons. The next card that we're going to go over is Mermaid Idol Sedna. She is our grade 3 searcher. She has a 9 out of 10. No matter how you look at it, she deserves that. Her +5 is real simple because all you have to do is have another card in the same column. Mermaid Idol Sedna, very important for a lot of decks because a lot of decks needed a grade 3 searcher to be more consistent. So she'll be great in Riviere, Coral, Pacifica, Melody, pretty much any deck. She'll be very useful. There's not much more to say about Sedna because grade 3 searchers are all the same, but very important for us. The next card we're going to go over is Consent Select Beata. She is the grade 4 support card in a sense. I graded her 3 out of 10. Her skill's not all that impressive. You have to place a grade 4 that turn in order for that effect to go off, and you only get to choose 1 for the Soul Blast. So 15k under crit. I mean, it's nice because it gets to swap if you choose between Force 1 and Force 2, but it's still not all that impactful. It's already hard enough to get a grade 4 ride, so why is it like not as like super powerful? Like it should be like get +2 crit, get plus 40k of your choice for like maybe Soul Blast 2. In my opinion, I think it's pretty weak, and I think I was actually being generous with the 3. She probably is maybe more of a 2. Like I don't even think I would play her in my Highlander deck. So the next card we're going to go off is the Amos Perfection Relenca. She is one of the Sedna support cards I'm going to consider a Sedna support card. She is a 4 out of 10 as a support card. I mean, she's still pretty decent. There's a actual grade 2 counterpart that does the exact same thing as her. So I graded them basically the same when it comes to that. Their restanding ability is really cool when you combine it with Sedna, because Sedna, when she powers the units up, it's not until the end of the battle, it's until the end of the turn. So regardless, as long as you're revealing the 2, you're getting a plus 20k. So you're having a 33k attack twice, and you're not really milling anything because when you ditch the 2 copies, you draw 2 cards. So you're still plussing 1 attack, and you're still keeping your hand. Downside is that you're losing units, so... in my opinion, it's still very good, but you still have to get basically 3 copies, 1 on the field, 2 in your hand, which is not the easiest thing to do unless you're getting lucky with hitting a lot of grade 3s. The next one is Cerulean Jewelry Fasive. It's like passive, but with an F. It's weird. She's the other grade 2 steady support. Same skill. Can get the restand. Draws 2, but you still have to just same 2 copies. Still very good. That's why I gave her a 4. She'll be in decks that are most likely going to need Seledy, because you're going to need multiple copies of that particular card. There's not much else to say. The next card is Heart of Fragrance Liesche, and she is the last. She's like an actual support card because it actually says that you have to have Seledy as the vanguard to play it. But she's good because she can grab 2 copies, 2 normal units, unfortunately. I really hate that they're not letting us just randomly grab triggers out of nowhere. But it's a good way if you're going to play vanilla perfect guards. You can grab 2 vanilla perfect guards from your drop zone when you activate her effect. She's good. I mean, Counterblast, Soul Blast, get 2 units in your hand. It's a +2. But it's not in place, so you can only do it once. So you might want to combine her with maybe Aqua so you can do it again. But I believe her skill is also can only be used once per turn, but I'm not entirely certain about that. Let me check. Yes, you can only... We seem to be getting that skill a lot lately. That's unfortunate. This ability may only be used by a card with the same card name once per turn. That really hurts. We get that too many times. The next card we're going to go over, very important card, because it actually has a random... We're going to get our own little special marker that some other clans have been getting because of this. We have the Sweetest sister, Meer. She is so good. I graded her 8 out of 10. She is going to be a very annoying card for decks that stall. If you stall against this deck, you're going to lose eventually. Because Meer's skill is basically every turn get a Meer's present. I'll go over that card after I'm done with the Meer. And then at the beginning of your battle phase, reveal as many Meer presents as you want. And all your rear guards get plus 5k for that. If you reveal 2 or more, heal a damage for a counterblast. So you counterblast 1, and then you heal that counterblast. So as long as you have an open counterblast, you're fine. Your opponent can decide not to attack you. That's fine. You're taking no damage, and you're still getting an extra 25 stats each turn. They're not going to be able to survive. This is a great, honestly, Force 2 deck. There should be no reason for you to be playing Force 1, because Force 2 is just going to be more important. Because you're going to have, through your columns, plus 10, so you're already having a Force marker for your columns. And then plus 20, plus 30, plus 40. Eventually, they're going to die from the over amount of power. She is incredible. She also has another skill. Her other skill is checking cards from the top of your deck. You get to, for a counterblast and a soul blast, in my opinion, very cheap. You get to check top 2 cards, call up to one of them, and put the other card to the top of your deck. That is incredible. Because you can shoot, if you see 2 triggers, and say one of them's a draw trigger, one's a crit trigger, You can keep the crit on top, the draw on the bottom. You choose no cards to put back, and you get your double draw check of triggers. Because you get to rearrange them in any order. So you get a choice. But it also puts your opponent a little at a disadvantage because you now know what the next card is. So if he goes 2 to pass, and you know it's not a trigger, because you already called a unit, there was 2 regular cards, you know it's not a unit, a trigger, you're not really concerned. You're just going to flip it over. He wasted extra guard for no reason. Or he basically wasted guard for a no pass, which, in my opinion, perfect fine for me. Or you can get really good double triggers whenever you need to. It's a great card. It's fantastic. Now, for Meer's Present, it's a little weird. It doesn't really have any real type of an effect, in a sense. Basically, this card cannot be called, normal called at all. So, it can be discarded, it can be bound from your hand, it can be superior called, but when it's superior called, it disappears. So this card, while cool, can be used as like fodder once you have a couple, because you don't need to keep stacking them into your hand, but you can. But they're good for discard fodder or even bind fodder if you're playing an Arakami. Or if you're playing against premium Nubatama and they're telling you to call a card, you can call these instead. It'd be funny because they don't get to dominate and the cards go away. Only disadvantage, this is why I gave them a 5. They would have been higher if you could just normal call them and they disappear, it'd be fine. I would love for it so you can call them to the Guardian Circle against those decks that use you have to use at least 2 cards, or in Pacifica's case, you have to use 3 cards. So dropping one of those would be very helpful sometimes, but not exactly the case. Nothing you can do about that. The next card we're going to go over is Girlish Idol Lyricle, and I graded a 7 out of 10. Right now, there's no real support for it, but we basically have our first retiring card. Her skill is basically, when she attacks, your opponent must intercept. Must. If they can. Now, they always say if they can, if the intercept, maybe an intercept effect is blocking it from doing it. But basically she's her retiring effect because she's forcing you to put cards into the intercept zone. But she also has an advantage for that too. Whenever you intercept, she gets plus NK. So your interceptors for 5, or even 10, some have 10, she just evens out. So she just counteracts it completely, in a sense. So you're losing your field during this time. She also has a secondary effect that you have to have played an order card that turn in order to get that intercepting effect, which not too hard. You can put order cards in the deck. And it doesn't have to be the one that we just got, which I'm going to go over in a second. And she also has a good on-play skill because she gets to grab 2 order cards from your drop zone. So if you're playing regular order cards, you're going to be able to at least get the skill off twice each turn. Twice. But she's great. She's actually technically one of our first. Very difficult to pull off, somewhat. Well, not very difficult, but somewhat difficult to pull off, which is why she's a 7. Retiring unit. Because getting rid of your cards on the field is, regardless if they intercept it or not, is still really good. the last card that we're going to go over is the order card that just came out, which is Lyrical Veil. Obviously, this card was meant to be combined with Girlish Idol Lyricle because it's the same freaking name. It is really good, and honestly, not just Bermudas, but a lot of other decks, a lot of other clans can play this card. So I have a sense that people are going to be buying this card. Unfortunately, you're going to need at least play 3 of her if you want to play this card, because her skill involves not only Soul Blasting too, so decks that need Soul won't be able to play her, but you also have to discard another Lyrical Veil, which means you have to get rid of 2. It's not that bad for Girlish Idol Lyricle, who gets 2 on place, because you can just play it, discard, and then you've got Girlish Idol Lyricle to grab them right back. So its effect is incredible. Choose 2 great or less units from your drop zone, call them to rearguard. But you just Soul Blasted 2. So if you take the 2, like, say you go grade 2, and then you activate this effect. You have 2 Lyrical Veils in your hand, and you have Girlish Idol Lyricle in your hand as well. You can activate this effect, Soul Blast 2, get rid of your starter, and get rid of your grade 1 for your soul, from your soul. And then you take them and you call them to the rearguard circle, because now that since you paid the cost, they're in your drop zone, you can call them. It is basically the royal skill for Alfred, for the Blaster Blade skill, where it was like you can still blast the Blaster Blade and you still get them back from the drop zone because you activated it for the skill. And then you choose any player's field and give units intercept, and they can intercept from the back row. So I just called those 2 the grade 1 and my starter. I can give them intercept, and they can intercept from the back row. So now I have guard potential, more than likely for my starter, that I can intercept and block for, and it'll be helpful twice now, because now it's a 10k shield for me, which is great. It's perfect. But it's any players. So when you're playing here with Girlish Idol Lyrical, you choose 2 of their back row units, and now if they have 2 grade 2s, you've now forced that intercept, 2 back row intercepts, and it's, what, a 30k full board intercept, except for like 1 card, which is great. Except because you intercepted with 4 units, she gets 40k. There was no trade-off damaging. It actually made her a little bit stronger. So killing 4 units, I gain 2 units. You lose 2 extra units through this effect. It's incredible. The only disadvantage is that you're more than likely going to have to play between 3 and 4 of her. Unless we get a card that allows us to get order cards into her hand, she's more than likely going to be a 3-0. Like, comment, subscribe, hit that little bell for notification buttons, and we hope to see you soon. Have a good day.